All right, to this now. It's Black Friday tomorrow, and some may be looking forward to some deals, but while this may be tempting, consider the financial landscape before diving into impulse purchases. Have you set a budget, for example, or is money too tight to even consider shopping tomorrow? So I'll give you some tips in just a moment, but I'm standing by with SABC News Economics Editor Tshepo Mongoai, who is going to be discussing the subject further with us. But let's start with giving you some tips on how to score the best deals. So you just need to research the prices. Remember, it is important to research the price because sometimes you may think that actually things are cheap, but when you look at the time and you actually track the prices over time, you may find that it's actually not as cheap as you think it is. Use the coupons and the promo codes. They are there for you to use. Take advantage of that. Shop early and late so that you avoid everybody having this large concentration there at the malls. And also, remember, you can check online as well. And when you check online, you must make sure that it is safe. It is safe. Make sure you go to websites that are credible. Also, focus on the big ticket items. Nothing stops you from focusing on that big ticket item that you've been looking forward to all year long. And then, again, before you buy something, just ask yourself the question, do I really need this item? Is it a need or is it a want? You then can map out your budget, look at your priorities, avoid shopping out of the fear of missing out, which is for you to post on social media, gloat to your friends, and seemingly say that you found some discounts. And remember, if a discount looks too good to be true, it probably is. But I want us to look at these two, Tshepo. When you think about the fact that people right now are saying that they are constrained, salaries have shrunk, and it may not possibly be as good for others as it is for some.
Absolutely. I mean, we know that the salary increases, average salaries increase, have been below inflation for quite some times. Things are starting to improve gradually now with some of the salary increases that we are seeing currently. So there is a bit of a challenge that households are facing. Household debt to disposable income is pretty high, more than 50%, in fact. So they are still spending quite a large share of their salaries paying the debt. There is a BankServe take-home index that came out about a day ago for the month of September, and that also tells us that things are not looking good in terms of take-home pay. Previously, the trend was showing that there is some improvement, but suddenly we're seeing that it came down about 1.7%. But, of course, to counter that, we've seen that the number of those who are receiving salaries has actually increased, but it's not across the board. It's people who are earning less than 6,000 rand. So those who are at the higher end are not, getting as much.
And I suppose it speaks to this then, to say, ask yourself, do you really need the item? So that you don't run out of disposable income if you are not even prepared financially to buy that item.
Absolutely. We know shopping is nice, it's infectious, and people who see others shopping, they tend to also want to, the point that you raised earlier, they also want to go and look out because they feel that they are missing out on those bargains. But at times it's things that they don't really need. But one of the problems that we're facing, I mean, if you look at people who are on debt review, it's simple because people actually end up spending more money on things that are not necessary, and they end up defaulting on some of their very important debt that they need to service. Come January, we know that finances are stretched, even unexpected, things that needs to be attended to happen, particularly in January. And that's where we see that people end up postponing paying certain debts, or eventually they get stretched to a breaking point, and they end up going for things like a debt review. Remember, it is the basic decisions that you take today that will have an impact tomorrow, and you may not be able to get out of it because your planning was not the right one.
Sure. Tshepo, that is something so critical that you mentioned there. Be careful of the decisions that you take today. But there's also scammers that we need you to be very, very careful of. Scammers, and also do make sure that you check your bank statements after you've made your purchase to make sure that there are no unauthorized transactions. And Tshepo, this one also speaks to, you know, the broadening of the scope here. You think about the fact that people will probably be thinking that I can make an online purchase, buy from outside South Africa, think that it's cheap, but some hidden costs.
Absolutely. We know that there are duties that you need to think about. There are delivery costs as well. If it's local, but there's a cost to move it from one point to another. So you have to think about the price you see might not necessarily be the price that you're eventually going to pay. If it's a big ticket item also, there's some logistics in terms of moving it from where the warehouse is to where it is, to where you want it to be. Yeah. So those costs, you need to factor in those costs that are not on the price. We know that the revenue service has been for quite some time talking about that some of the important stuff that are brought into the country enjoy lower tariffs, and as a result they cannot compete with some of the things that we are seeing currently. But also I think generally you have to think about we are in a low inflation environment, and people might be looking and scrambling for much lower prices. Yeah. And it's unlikely that you're going to see that.
That's true.
You're not going to see that because for quite some times businesses have been not passing on some of the high cost. And in fact, November and December, that's an opportunity for them to capitalize and make money and protect their profits. So you're not really going to see some significant 50% that people always talk about cuts on certain prices. Yes, do your homework. You will save a buck or two, but it won't be a big amount that you think will change the world.
I'm keen to hear your postmortem. You owe me one when we then talk about how things went with regards to this, because I want to know if you think it was a stronger one. If it was a stronger Black Friday, or it may not be, I don't know.
But yeah, we're hearing that it will be a good one.
Yeah.
Personally, I doubt, but there are studies that they've done. There have been Nielsen IQ, Capital Connect. They've done some few studies on behalf of these retailers that it's going to be a good one. There's going to be a lot of activities. Everything points to that in terms of our macroeconomy, low interest rates, so that could help. Two ports.
But
would it be?
We don't know. Tshepo, I think you and I need to answer that question. And you saw the tips. Please be careful as you go out tomorrow. You can even start researching your prices even tonight into tomorrow. But do make sure that you do not fall for the online scams as well. Tshepo will be back in the coming days to also tell us if it was indeed a stronger one, or did we see a picture that we possibly had expected. That was Tshepo Mongoai, the SABC News Economics Editor.